Bangladesh's National Security Advisor is in Delhi and has met with NSA Ajit Doval. This as Bangladesh has asked India to extradite Sheikh Hasina, who has been here ever since she was ousted as Prime Minister. The statement from the Foreign Ministry has been a very carefully worded one. The big question is, will India come under any sort of obligation to actually extradite Hasina? The demand by the Bangladesh government was made after a court sentenced Sheikh Hasina to death over the student protests. In a moment from now, we'll be talking to Sheikh Hasina's son, who joins us live from the United States of America, on what might happen next. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, we look at New Delhi's Hassina dilemma. On the one hand, India is trying cautiously amid soaring tensions to forge some sort of improved relationship with Dhaka, especially as Pakistan tries to fish in troubled waters and establish its own relationship with the Bangladesh government. But earlier this week, Sheikh Hasina, the ousted prime minister who has been in exile in India, was sentenced to death over the student protests that led to this entire tumult and political turbulence. India so far has given a very, very neutral and carefully worded response. But the Bangladesh NSA is in Delhi and has met with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. How might India respond next? What are Sheikh Hasina's options? What might happen next in Bangladesh, where the country is still waiting for elections? And of course, there are concerns, serious concerns in India over violence that has targeted the minority community in Bangladesh. I want to welcome to the program now our newsmaker who joins us today from the United States of America. Sajeeb Wazed is with us. He's Sheikh Hasina's son, and we thank him for his time. Let me start by asking you, sir, thank you very much, appreciate your time. How concerned are you at this death sentence? Of course, Sheikh Hasina is in India and there are ways to appeal the sentence, but are you now concerned for her life?
Thank you for having me. No, I am not concerned for her life at all. The justice has the judgment has been denounced worldwide. You have had Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch. You've had 5 European human rights organizations that have all called this a fake verdict, that there was no due process, that the trials were not fair at all. And so, based on that, you can, even with an extradition treaty, you cannot just have a kangaroo court get a judgment and have a foreign government just extradite someone. It has to meet some minimum legal standards of due process. There are so many. I mean, and at every step of the way, this judgment was so illegal. First of all, you have a regime that is unelected, unconstitutional, and illegal. So the government itself is not legitimate. Secondly, you have, in order to expedite these trials at this tribunal, this regime had to amend laws. Now, only Parliament can amend laws. So they have amended the law without Parliament. That in itself is illegal. You've had, if you look at the legal arguments itself, my mother was not even allowed to appoint her own attorneys. Our attorneys were not even allowed to enter the courtrooms. It was a state-appointed attorney. If you look at the legal judgment, it's absolutely ridiculous that she's being convicted of something based on information that is, the timeline doesn't even match up. So it's a total bogus judgment, and I am not concerned because no legal government, no government with any due process can really implement this extradition.
You must have seen a very, very careful response from the Foreign Ministry here in Delhi on India's behalf. What is your expectation and hope at this point? I know that you have thanked the Prime Minister personally, Prime Minister Modi, that is. Let's talk a little bit about that. A, what is your expectation from India at this point? And B, why you actually thank the Prime Minister for saving your mother's life? Not just initially.
No, actually, right now, no, I am eternally grateful to Prime Minister Modi for saving my mother's life last year. Right now, I think the legal process, even if the regime in Bangladesh would have to follow a legal process in India. And I think in that legal process itself, this would get vacated because it does not even meet the bare minimum standards of justice. So unfortunately, there is no rule of law in Bangladesh right now. It's the courts are rubber stamping whatever this regime wants because of the fear of mobs, and they've replaced judges wholesale. Even in this tribunal, they fired 17 existing judges. Then they appointed a judge who has never been on a bench before. He has never presided over a trial of this nature, of any nature, in fact. And he has publicly made nasty remarks about my mother. So clearly, the process was so severely flawed that it will not stand up to judicial scrutiny in India whatsoever.
So, what is your hope? Here's the dilemma from an Indian perspective. There's a clear strain in ties between this regime in Bangladesh and India. But at the same time, neighbors have to keep a form of engagement going. Bangladesh's present NSA is in India. He's met with NSA Doval here. What do you expect or hope that India will come out and say at this point?
Well, right now you don't have democracy in Bangladesh. You have a regime that's backed by the Islamists, especially Jamaat-e-Islam. You've seen that they've cozied up to Pakistan. ISI has been operating freely in Bangladesh since this regime took over. You have had Pakistani terrorist organizations such as Lashkar-e-Taiba operating freely in Bangladesh. Their commanders have attended public meetings and spoken out openly, and they've taken credit for coordinating the recent terrorist attack in Delhi from the Lashkar-e-Taiba Bangladesh branch. So obviously, yes, they're neighbors, but if a neighbor is harboring terrorists who are carrying out terrorist attacks on your territory, what can you expect of the relationship when you have a regime, an illegal regime that's supporting terrorists that attack you? How far can you even bother engaging with that regime? What good will it do you?
So you're making a really important point. One, you're saying it isn't just the ISI that is now operating freely in Bangladesh; it is the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and you're drawing a direct link. And investigators are looking at this between the blasts that just took place in the national capital and terror groups that are now operating with impunity from the soil of Bangladesh.
That is absolutely correct. There are videos online that have been reported by Indian media of LAT commanders taking credit for this, describing all of this. So you don't have to take my word for it. They've boasted about it themselves. So at that point, engaging with the regime, basically providing the safe haven to these terrorists, there's really nothing for India to gain and all for it to lose here.
And what do you make of the cozying up with Pakistan? What do you make of that? I mean, Pakistan and Bangladesh have never seen the kind of relationship that they're seeing now, including military to military contact. Bangladesh was birthed from an anti-Pakistan army struggle, right? Led led from the front by your family. When you see this cozying up to Pakistan, what do you make of it?
So the Yunus regime is completely backed by Jamaat-e-Islami. Jamaat-e-Islami is the largest Islamist party in Bangladesh, which they formed militias during our War of Independence and slaughtered 3 million of our own civilians. And for that reason, for most of Bangladesh's history, Jamaat-e-Islami was actually banned from Bangladesh. It's essentially a terrorist organization. And so our government, our Awami League government, carried out the trial of the war criminals from our War of Independence. And since then, Jamaat has really been attempting to come back. And Jamaat never wanted independence from Pakistan. Jamaat never wanted an independent Bangladesh. And what they're trying to do now is, in a backhanded way, basically make Bangladesh an extension of Pakistan once again.
So you're saying that the Jamaat-e-Islami that backs the Yunus regime wants to make Bangladesh an extension of Pakistan?
Absolutely. That is exactly what you're seeing. That is why you're seeing such rapid and increased engagement with Pakistan. That is why you're seeing Pakistani intelligence as well as terrorist organizations being given completely free access in Bangladesh. This regime, when they came to power, one of the first things they did was they released all the Islamist terrorists that our government had arrested. The ones that were responsible for the Holy Artisan terrorist attack in 2016, the ones that were responsible for the killing of a local staff member of the U.S. Embassy. All of these terrorists, our government had arrested, convicted, sentenced to jail. The Yunus regime released them all.
Yeah.
So actually is a terrorist safe haven.
Yeah, so it's frightening to hear you talk about the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the ISI operating with impunity from the soil of Bangladesh, that the Yunus regime and its backers, in particular the Jamaat-e-Islami, want to take Bangladesh back to those years when it was an extension of Pakistan. My question to you is, what now? What happens now? You've already said that you don't see why India would want to engage with a regime that is inimical to its interests, that is cozying up to Pakistan, that is backing terror groups. But from your perspective and from the perspective of what options are before Sheikh Hasina now, what are those options?
The options are actually quite simple. You have elections scheduled, and what this regime has done is they have banned the Awami League, but not just the Awami League. The Awami League has an official ban, but they have an unofficial ban on the third largest party, the Jatiyo Party, and several other secular parties. Those parties, all their offices have been destroyed. Many of their leaders have been held behind bars, along with all of our leaders. You have over 100 members of parliament who've been held behind bars as political prisoners for the last year and a half, without trials, without bail. And so what you have upcoming is an election that is a completely one-sided, rigged election. They've excluded about half the voters of Bangladesh, because between our parties, and especially the secular parties, we represent at least half the voters of Bangladesh. That's the historic vote. So what you have is an election that's scheduled in Bangladesh where only the Islamists and the pro-Islamist parties will be allowed to participate. And they're doing it by force. So of course, these elections, just like this judgment, would not be recognized as legitimate. But for India, the most critical thing to do right now is to bring international pressure to bear ahead of these elections to let the regime know that if they go ahead with these elections, they will not be accepted by anyone. And at that point, we shall see. From the Awami League's perspective, we are protesting. We had called a lockdown on the 13th. The people responded. Dhaka city was completely shut down. We called a lockdown again on 16th and 17th. People responded again. Most of the nation, most of the cities was mostly shut down. We are going to protest. We have no other option, really. We still have tens of millions of supporters. We still have hundreds of thousands of activists. And more importantly, I think the people of Bangladesh, they are really outraged. They are, for the last year and a half, law and order has collapsed. It's just been mob justice. It's been, the economy has collapsed, and people want their democratic right. They don't want a staged election. So I think the people of Bangladesh are responding. And I think what you will see is that the protests will grow. The regime will crack down. Already you have the police has issued orders to shoot protesters. That order, exactly what they tried to blame my mother for, They have issued that order repeatedly. So I think situation is volatile, but this is where India and the international community has a big role to play before the elections, because once the elections are done, it's going to be much harder.
Let me ask you in the end, have you had a chance to speak with your mother after the death sentence was announced? How would you describe her state of mind? She has begun talking to sections of the media. We do hear her perspective more than we did in the initial, few weeks and months that she was first ferried to India from a very volatile, dangerous situation in Bangladesh. How would you describe her state of mind?
Her state of mind is strong because this judgment was completely expected. This was not a surprise at all. Even the journalists that were interviewing me before the judgment asked, well, what, she's going to get, most likely, they stated, well, we expect that she'll be convicted. What then? And I laughed and I said, look, you call this justice, but you know what the judgment is going to be before the verdict is going to be, before it is even issued. So this was not a surprise, and we don't care. The international community has not accepted it. The judgment has been exposed. Yunus regime has been completely exposed by this verdict.
In the end, do you believe that Sheikh Hasina will be able to return to Bangladesh one day, or in the circumstances that is just far too hypothetical a question, and it seems something that is very far away?
No, my mother will absolutely return to Bangladesh. When, I don't know, but I'm confident of that.
And in the meantime, you believe that India understands, but also probably needs to get the international community to understand that it is the Islamists who are in charge in Bangladesh.
Absolutely. That is exactly correct, because it is India that has the biggest threat. India cannot directly do a whole lot in Bangladesh because the Islamists use that to amplify the anti-India sentiment. But the international community needs to be engaged more extensively, because this is India's backyard. This is not any other country's backyard. The Yunus regime has threatened India on multiple occasions, threatened the chicken neck, threatened to sever your 7 sisters. They've made these threats publicly. So this is a very, very grave threat to India's national security.
Absolutely. And with those grim words, we thank you for your time. What's happening in Bangladesh, a grave security threat to India's interests. Sajeeb Wazed also making the point that the ISI and terror groups like the Lashkar-e-Taiba, factions of their men now operating with impunity from Bangladesh, which is a direct security challenge to India. Sheikh Hasina, of course, continues to be in exile in India, but her son believes that she will definitely return home one day. Thank you, sir, for your time. And we will, of course, keep tracking these developments and hope to speak to you again very soon. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mould Her Story and support independent, robust journalism.